Good evening and welcome to The Big Fight, a show that is young at 21, the oldest running debate show on Indian news television. I'm Sanket Upadhyay. The Supreme Court has led the way. What has the Supreme Court said? It appears that the court wants to send a message, a strong message, not just to institutions, but to society at large. Let's quickly take a look at this presentation on what Supreme Court has said on fighting gender discrimination by leading the way. This is what the top court in the country said. Certain structures that may seem to be the norm and may appear to be harmless are a reflection of the insidious patriarchal system. Insidious patriarchal system. Strong words used by the Supreme Court. The court goes on to say a facially equal application of laws to unequal parties is a farce. Another strong word used. The court then says when the law is structured to cater to a male standpoint. Another strong comment by the Supreme Court. The court says the use of term indirect discrimination is not to refer to discrimination which is remote, but is instead as real as any other form of discrimination. And this, by the way, is the discussion that we are going to have today, where the court says that there is not just direct but indirect discrimination also against women. And that can be, on the face of it, appear as equal or equality, but in effect, it is a form of discrimination. It's a very interesting definition that the court has come with. It says indirect discrimination is caused by facially neutral criteria. Facially neutral criteria, right? It may appear to you that this is normal. Rule must be applicable to all. Facially neutral. Not taking into consideration underlying effects of provision, practice, criteria. Very, very intelligently put by the Supreme Court. It then goes on to say, as long as court's focus is on mental state underlying the action that is allegedly discriminatory, we are in territory of direct discrimination. Very, very clear assessment of this situation. Fighting gender discrimination. So on The Big Fight tonight, we are going to ask and put all these questions. It's a very, very important subject and is debated a lot. Within the forces, it has been debated a lot, because that is what the matter was. Permanent commissioning of female officers. So while the way has been cleared, a lot has been said for the society to ponder. Can we ever, and that's the larger point that we are going to ask, can we ever end our, in the words of the Supreme Court, insidious patriarchal systems? That's the debating point right here on NDTV. I want to introduce our guest this evening on this extremely important subject. We have Lieutenant General Raj Kadyan, the former Deputy Chief of Army Staff. Major General G.G. Dwivedi, Defence Analyst, is with us. Captain Jaspreet Kaur, ex-officer of the JAG. We also have Suman Sharma, former instructor from the Indian Military Academy. We'll have, she's also, by the way, the world's first woman to do Sukhoi as well as MiG-35 sorties. She's going to join us in just a short moment. Major Navdeep Singh is an advocate in the High Court. Professor Geeta Bhatt, professor of the Delhi University, is going to join us. Chitrangana is an advocate and counsel for the women officers, direct party in this case. She fought this battle in the Supreme Court for the women officers. She's going to join us, and senior advocate Niharika Karanjewala is also with us. Thank you very much to all of you for joining us. Important subject, so we'll give opening comments to all our panelists. Major General Raj Kadyan, we'll begin with you first. What are your views? Your 1 minute time begins now. Lieutenant General Kadyan, my apologies.
Sanket, when we see today's decision, And related to the last year's decision when the Supreme Court has passed on 17th February. Last year they had given permanent commission to girls, which I at least fully supported. Today the Supreme Court has laid down how to grant that permanent commission. My view is that army is a specialized force. Only people who have gone through the uniform can understand the army's way of functioning. And they are the best people to take decisions. Supreme Court has passed orders about applying physical fitness criteria, about medical fitness criteria to lady officers. I think the right people to answer this question should be the 50,000 Jawans who've been roughing it out in the ICI for the last 11 months.
Okay.
Would they want
Sure.
to be led by an officer who is not physically fully fit, not medically fully fit? I fully support the Supreme Court contention that this society is wrongly
Sure.
structured.
Sure.
And it must change from patriarchal to equal status.
Yes, Lieutenant General Kadian,
But the
let
question
me
is,
come
where
back
do
to
you
you.
want to start the change?
We just wanted to give
You should-
everyone a 1 minute of opening comments. So I'm going to come back to you. You can complete your point. Major General G.G. Dwivedi.
Echo bahut aa raha hai.
Major General G.G. Dwivedi, your 1 minute.
Well, I think first and foremost it's a very sensitive issue and it requires a very deliberate consideration, right? But at the same time, I like to lay bare few hard facts. The armed forces, is a very tough call, and our armed forces are employed in the toughest of conditions. Having myself commanded in Siachen and in Ladakh, where you have the standoff right now, I think we need to see this whole thing in a different perspective. While there's no denying that the women must be given equal chance, and there's no denying of the fact, but at the same time, we also must take into consideration the kind of demands that the armed forces have when you are in the toughest of conditions, and these cannot be discriminated. There is no dispensation. The armed forces have
Okay.
same yardstick. There is no two yardsticks.
Yes, Major
and
General
more than
Dwivedi.
that, we look for right person for the right job.
Sure,
If I am
absolutely.
infantryman,
Okay.
then I am supposed to deliver as
I'm
per
going to
my
come back to
organization.
you. I'm going to come back to you. We've completed the 1 minute opening comments time, and I'm going to come back to you in just a short moment. Niharika Karanjewala, I would like to come to you now. What do you think of this? You've heard the comments of our earlier two panelists also. What do you think of the observations and the comments of the Supreme Court?
Hi, Saket. I think it's a very interesting, I think it's a very important judgment that the Learned Court has passed, because they make the difference, they make the distinction between the intent and the effect of certain decisions taken, and the difference between a superficial quality and an actual equality when they talk about indirect discrimination. And I think this is very, very important, because even from the comments of the two learned gentlemen that appeared before me, there seems to be some sort of hesitance maybe towards the new ruling. And frankly, it needs to be applied in a manner that brings the greatest equality to the greatest people, while keeping the demands of the military in the forefront as well. And in fact, I think one of the things that the Learned Court had noted was that the judgment of the High Court was not applied with the proper intent as to which it had been put forward, and that was one of the problems that had caused these petitioners to approach the Supreme Court in the first place. So I think that application of this is of the utmost significance here and importance, and how it happens will remain to be seen.
Okay. Major Navdeep Singh, your opening comments.
The army is the organization which has to see what kind of people it needs. But let's not forget that this was an extraordinary situation wherein a judgment was rendered in the year 2011, and ultimately we are implementing it in 2021. So there is bound to be a little bit of churning in all these issues, and since the judgment was not implemented in time, although there was no stay on it, these things were bound to come up. and it's an extraordinary situation. I'm sure the society will self-adjust, the army will adjust to it, and in a few years' time, nobody will even talk about these issues. It's just that it so happens that we are at the cusp of a revolution kind of a thing, and women can now become permanent commissioned officers. These little gray areas were bound to occur, but it's not right to say that they cannot serve properly, or they will not be able to lead troops. They were leading troops for the last 14 years as short service commissioned officers. There's going to be no change. And it's only a bit of cadre management. I'm sure that the army is a magnanimous organization. Women officers are totally committed. There will be, a bit of a, settlement and a bit of an adjustment, and things will work out very well. There'll be no problem in the future.
Sure. Okay. Professor Bhatt is also with us. Welcome, Professor Bhatt. I'm going to come back to you in just a short moment. Captain Jaspreet Kaur, where do you stand on this issue? Your opening comments.
And but on the other side, army has been good to lady officers, but at the same point of time, they need to realize that we are 100% there, and we have been giving our 100%. And in the same way, we should be treated at par as our male counterparts. It should not be that one yardstick is there for the female counterparts and the other is there for the male counterparts. If physically we are talking about the male and the female, male and female officers, there are bound to be differences, but at the same point of time, you cannot just chuck away the lot of female officers and say that, they are unfit. There are male counterparts also who are not fit, but they are serving. Just because we are female officers, we are not allowed to serve. We have these restrictions that she is a lady officer, she cannot lead, she cannot be posted out in the front. So all these things are there which are not true.
Correct.
I think we should be given our chance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Professor Geeta Bhatt, where do you stand on this issue? Can we ever end our insidious patriarchal mindset? The words of the Supreme Court.
Well, Sanketji, definitely, women have to be given equal opportunity, across the various professions, including in the defense forces. And this also is a truth that across the globe in almost all the societies, women had to, seek parity, whether in pay, whether in position or in career enhancement. Now, with respect to the Supreme Court judgment, last year in February 2020, Supreme Court had already directed the army that the permanent commission should be given to the women officers as it is being given to the men officers who are under short service commission in the army. And that has been followed. Now, any woman officer who at present is there in the army is going to have the same criteria which is to be followed, which their men counterpart are following. That is, after 5 years they go for a board, and their ACR report and their medical category, these are the 2 points broadly which are evaluated. However, the women, those who had gone to the court, who had earlier, when they joined the services, knew that they are going for this is not a permanent commission, but later on went to the court and have been given this opportunity. For them, there has been, a small flip side to it, where because their ACR at present is being evaluated of what was given to them by the senior when they were in service.
Sure.
But
sure.
their medical category is being evaluated based on the present time.
Sure. Okay.
So for these women, there is a discrepancy. But
Okay.
if you look at for the present officers, it is on the same parity.
Sure. Okay. Lieutenant General Kadian, let me quickly come back to you. I was reading your old comment, a comment that you had made where you said that women commanding officers will not be acceptable to our Jawans who come from conservative rural backgrounds where their women folk are treated very differently. Right? Now, I just want to juxtapose this statement of yours with what the Supreme Court has said. The Supreme Court says, and I quote, certain structures that, I'm just juxtaposing two comments, certain structures that may seem to be the norm and may appear to be harmless are a reflection of the insidious patriarchal system. A facially equal application of laws to unequal parties is a farce. Lieutenant General Kadian, what do you make of your earlier comment and a sort of a reply from the Supreme Court to that?
Sanket, I fully stand by what I had said last year. But I had also said that the society is changing. There have been a lot of change in the last 70 years, and the change will come slowly. Society does not change overnight. Even today, society does not consider women as equal to men. Whether you take travel in metro stations or any other, they get priority. So, when the Supreme Court says that you can't apply the same standard to unequal parties, they are accepting that the girls are not equal to men. Then,
of course.
Also, the Supreme Court has also said that ACR cannot be the only criteria or cannot be applied selectively. But the army uses ACR. That is how Manekshaw became chief, based on the ACR. That is how a lot of people get sent home. So why should there be different criteria applied to the girls? If they have joined the mainstream, fine, we welcome them. Their ability, their competence, their courage is never in doubt.
That's where,
But
Lieutenant General
they-
Qadian, that's where the whole concept of indirect discrimination comes in. You're saying that they're, you quoted the example of them getting a different coach in a metro. The point is, and this is why I call this a landmark judgment, because it addresses all these points. The Supreme Court judgment says, presently, adjustments both in thought and letter are necessary to rebuild the structures of an equal society. So you will have to first get a level playing field to then apply the rule uniformly.
Sanket, my point is that we need to change the patriarchal system. Nobody supports it, and it's gradually changing.
But sir,
also.
how will it change
But
if
where
institutions
do you start
don't?
the change? Where do you start the change? Do you start in low risk options or the highest risk option? Look at the risk that you're incurring by starting the change in the army. Let's say the chiefs, all the service chiefs have 40 years of service, they are fathers, they are brothers. They are applying a just standard to select their officers.
Sure.
They are the country charioteers. To win our race, let them select their horses. Why are we imposing our criteria on them?
Okay.
Do we doubt their ability or their sense of
Captain
judgment?
Kaur, I want to bring you in. You have heard what Lieutenant General Qadian has to say. He says, let the army decide for itself. It's a high risk option to go for a change or a societal change. Go for low risk options first. Where do you stand on this?
I beg to differ, sir.
Sure.
Now, I believe that this is there in every field if you look at it from that point of view. It is there in the civil also. But in the army, we are supposed to be leading by discipline. So the main thing is what? The discipline and how you lead your men. I don't think that the Jawans have any problem in being led by a female officer. I feel it is, the problem lies more with our male officers because we give them competition. That is where the problem arises. It's not with the Jawans. And if a female officer is capable of being as a trainer in the academy, if she can train a male officer, then how come she's not capable of getting a PC? If she's getting commendation cards from the Chief of Army Staff, then how come she's not eligible for PC? These are my questions.
Correct. Okay. Major General Dwivedi, I want to come back to you, and maybe Lieutenant General Qadian can reply also. Major General Dwivedi, you see the point that that was being made by Captain Kaur has also been addressed right here in this judgment. I read once again. It says the most compelling feature of indirect discrimination, in our view, is the fact that it prohibits conduct which, though not intended to be discriminatory, has that effect. That's exactly the point that Captain Kaur seems to be making. Major General Dwivedi.
Well, Senga, what I want to make out is I think there is some bit of dichotomy in what we are discussing. First and foremost, I think from the time the women, they started to enter the armed forces, in last 3 decades, I think a lot of water has flown down the rivers. And I think women officers, they have proved themselves, and there are a number of them who served under me. I have no doubt that they rise to the occasion, and no one can question their performance. That is point number one. Secondly, if they are joined in and those who are found fit as per the yardstick of the armed forces, and I reiterate again that there is no two yardsticks, we have only single yardstick, and if they measure up to that standard, they should be given permanent commission, no doubt about it. My only point was that there are certain, areas and there are certain arms and services, and we in the armed forces have right man for the right job. So, like in infantry, like I was commanding a CHN, I will be little skeptical to have a lady medical officer sharing my snow shelter with 10, 12 other people with no other facilities. Now, these are some of the extreme cases. In that, I am sure the army can take a call, but my concluding comments will be that lady officers or women officers must be given a fair chance. I don't think now we have such a mental block that our men.
No,
don't
while I
them.
agree, but see, Lieutenant General Kadian and Major General Dwivedi both seem to be saying the same point. You meet that criteria which has been set, and you're good to go. There is no disparity, but that is exactly what is being referred in this particular judgment. Indirect discrimination caused by facially neutral criteria, by not taking into consideration underlying effects of provision, practice, criterion. Major General Dwivedi.
Yeah, so now the point is that it is not the in principle that is being questioned, it is the implementation that is being questioned. I think in principle there is no second thought, or there is no difference of opinion that the lady officers must be given a chance to get the permanent commission. Now, I think what Supreme Court is questioning is the way it is being implemented. Well, that is a course correction, that is the methodology, and that can be gone through. But in principle, I don't think there is a difference of opinion as to why shouldn't the lady officers or women officers not be given a permanent commission.
Sure, we have a young advocate with us who was the counsel for these women officers in the court, and she is now with us, Chitrangada. Thank you so much for joining us. Good evening. We are discussing where there are people on both sides who want to present their view, their compelling arguments. I want to know from you that in the court, what really was your argument, and where do you stand as far as the judgment is concerned? Do you think that this is a judgment with far-reaching implications?
So, your question is that what was our argument before the court?
Yeah.
Since the very beginning, what we argued was to check the procedural aspect as to what procedure that army has applied to exclude women officers instead of including them. Because the Babita Punia case, which came in February 2020, clearly stated that these women officers should be given a fair chance of consideration for permanent commission. However, the chance given by army was just a mere formality done by the institution, was just a mere formality, and it wasn't something, it wasn't the true compliance of the judgment given by the Honorable Court. So what we were seeking was that tell us the procedure that you're going to apply on us, tell us the policy that you have made for us. Since we are special, the 615 officers that were being assessed for the purpose of permanent commission, these are a special case because these officers are somebody who have been fighting this battle for over 15 years now. So throughout our argument was that give us a policy, tell us the parameters that you are going to apply on us, but those parameters were never told to us during the pendency of the petition. Only in the counter affidavit did the army come and tell us that here, this is the benchmark that we are using. We are comparing you to the lowest graded gentleman officer. So I'm not going to get into the technicalities.
Sure.
But what actually the policy states is that you should have 60% as the cutoff. If you are above 60%, you get permanent commission. However, ignoring that 60% criteria, army simply compared us to the lowest graded gentleman officer of the parallel batch. So these were our arguments before the court. And the next question that you posed to me, sir, was about the judgment. What do I think about the judgment? So this judgment is better off than the one which was given in Babita Punia case, because this is a follow-up case. We sought the compliance in true letter and spirit of Babita Punia case. However, this is like the procedural aspect wherein Justice Chandrachud has clearly said that though in Babita Punia case we had seen the aspect of gender discrimination, but that has not been followed here in the implementation. So to highlight that, Justice Chandrachud clearly says that these officers have implored the court not for any extra benefit, but they have implored the court to restore their dignity.
Okay, very, very significant point. Lieutenant General Qadian, would you like to respond? See, the arguments are very clear, lucid. It's very clear what they want. The problem is what sort of yardstick is applied. You say that there is a set rule for everyone, and once you meet those parameters, it should be, a person should be good to go. But what is that parameter?
Sanket, short service commission is not a new thing. It has been given to male officers for many decades now. When they come up for permanent commission, there is a criteria meant for them that is applied to them. A similar criteria, apart from height and weight considerations, should be applied to the girls, because they will be required to do the same job. Now, Madam Chitrangada has mentioned 60%. That itself is discriminatory. Any benchmark you fix, what happens if tomorrow a 59% lands up there? He says you are discriminating against me. Army, Sanket, is not an equal opportunity service. It is a service that is required to fight to keep the country secure. That is why we reject people who are too tall or too short, too heavy or too light. Tomorrow they will also appeal. Okay, they have equal right. So where do we stop? Let us not make the army a test bed for social change. Society must change, I am with it. But I've lived in rural society, change is coming slowly.
Okay.
You can't impose it, starting with the army. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's a very important point that he's making. Chitrangada, would you like to reply? Lieutenant General Qadian says that don't make the army some sort of a test case or a test bed for social change.
I want to comment on this by saying that up till now, we are somebody who have been in the army for over 10 years, 14 years and over 20 years. Had we not been capable of giving our services to the nation, then we would have been released long back. It is since we are here and giving our services to the nation for all these years, it won't be right to say that we are not capable of giving our services at this point of time. This is my comment to Qadian sir's reply.
Captain Kaur, your response.
I think we are doing the best we can, and we have proved ourselves by getting posted not only in Siachen camp to say Kibitu in Arunachal Pradesh. We have done our bit, and we have been continuously proving ourselves. But I know it will take time to really, change the.
No, but Captain Kaur, what about the very specific point that was made by Lieutenant General Qadian on not making the army a test bed for social change? How would you respond to that?
With all due respect, sir, it's not a test field, it's not a testing ground. As our learned lawyer here said, that we have been serving since the last 15 odd years to 20 odd years, we have been serving. If we have done something to prove ourselves and we have proved ourselves, only then we are sticking here. It's not that, we are just being tagged along. If that was the case, we would have been chucked out long time back. Even the male officers, some of them are not capable, but they are still serving. Then we should be questioning them also as to why our.
Lieutenant General Qadian, would you like to respond?
Sanket, all these points are valid. I respect the girls' arguments. The question is, let us go for the low-hanging fruit first. We have had outstanding women politicians. We had a prime minister absolutely outstanding. We have had chief ministers in Odisha, in Delhi, in Bengal, in Tamil Nadu, in Rajasthan. So why don't we start that equation? Why are there only 14% members of parliament who are women? Why don't we start in the Supreme Court itself? Out of 34 Supreme Court judges, you have only 2 women. Out of the rest of the high courts in the country, less than 6% are women.
That's a very interesting
Should we
argument.
not think of that change?
That the court should apply this to itself. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That is a low risk option. Women
Okay,
are as capable
Captain Kaur
legally.
as well as
Nobody
Niharika
can question their
Karanjewala.
recommend-
I want your response. Captain Kaur first and then Niharika.
I want to say that when the female officers are coming forward and say they want to serve, you know that they want to serve, then why are you not allowing them to serve? You have a candidate for to serve. On one side, you're saying there are shortage of officers, and then women officers are ready to serve. Then why are you not allowing them to serve? Just saying that, in the honorable Supreme Court or other courts or in the civil, why are females not coming up? Where we are coming up, please let us. We are coming up. We want to serve. Then let us. Here we want to.
Okay, Niharika, very quickly, and then we'll take this
Sanket,
forward.
I had one point to make in response to
May I-
Lieutenant General Kadian's point, which is that, first of all, let's understand the Supreme Court is the very pinnacle of our profession. There are a great deal of women and more, hundreds and thousands more women every year practicing in the law in India. And it's only by giving them opportunities at those ages that you are going to enable them to reach the Supreme Court. If the army at this stage says, look, please don't start with us, please start somewhere else, they aren't going to give female officers a chance to make it into those higher ranks, a chance to bring about that kind of equality at all. If all the high up institutions say, please start somewhere else, please don't start with us, please don't look at us, and this is not an equal opportunity framework and this is not an equal opportunity job, then what you are saying in effect is, please don't come here looking for equality. And I think that is what the Supreme Court has tried to set right today. And that is what they have tried to say cannot happen anymore in the armed forces.
Okay, Major General Dwivedi and then Major Navdeep
Can-
Singh. Let me take your views. Yes.
Well, I just like to make 2-3 very important issues.
Sure.
First and foremost, please understand that armed forces, their life, the quality, the mission orientation is totally different than the other professions. Secondly, I want to assure that armed forces are very fair, and the kind of opportunity we have given to our women officers, I think it need to be understood. And third very important point is, you see that they are the same yardstick. You cannot have different yardstick for the same job. And I keep reiterating that in the armed forces, there is no dispensation, there is no reservation, there is no preferential treatment. It is a purely merit-based organization. And if you measure up to it, I am more than confident the system will accept you. So therefore, there should be no hesitation or there should be no doubt.
But Major
that
General
they are-
Dwivedi,
the
an
women
argument,
are
and
being
my
given-
apologies to Lieutenant General Kadian, an argument to say that the male members of the army are not going to accept a woman commanding officer is inequality right at the very beginning. Lieutenant General Kadian may very well have a point.
No,
But the
no.
point is, this is exactly the
No,
type of
I-
indirect
no,
discrimination.
Today, I don't think so that is the case, and I'm again making my case that, Shri, today we are not in position to accept women in infantry or in the armor because it is not required. And but at the same time, the women are there in the other, supporting arms and logistics. And I think there should be no doubt amongst us that our men won't accept the women. I don't think that is the case, because if they're proven worthy, and I have seen women commanding the subunits and also the detachments, and they have done a good job. So I think that is just only a kind of a self-imposed perception. And I want to assure the women guests on this show also that that is not the case. Men, at least I have not seen that kind of discrimination or that kind of vibes that where men will not accept a woman as the commanding officer or the subunit commander.
We're definitely talking in the context of the army or the armed forces or the defense forces, but this is something which is applicable everywhere. To that point and to that extent, I kind of agree with Lieutenant General Kadian. Yes, things need to change in big institutions, things need to change, but it has to, you know, gender equality has to change institutionally across the board, across all institutions. Major General Navdeep Singh and then Chitrangada again, because she wanted to come in. Major Navdeep Singh.
See, let me clear some misconceptions here.
Sure.
Most of the people in the military community are thinking as if this judgment is providing combat roles to women in the military. It's not like that. It's simple that the court has held, even the Delhi High Court has held, that combat roles or frontline combat is a policy decision which will be taken by the army in due course. The issue was very simple, and it was this, that women were allowed to serve for 14 years as short service commissioned officers, but they were not considered fit to serve 20 years or more as permanent commissioned officers. So that was a glaring irregularity and a discrimination, that you can serve for 14 years, but you cannot serve for 20 years. So what the court had stated was that please consider them for permanent commission also at par with males, so that you can serve for 20 years or more, rather than being just, eased out after 14 years of service. If you can serve for 14 years, you can serve for 20 years. There can be no doubt about it. So it is not that they're asking for the moon or for combat roles. It's not like that. Secondly, saying that, menfolk or people coming from rural backgrounds will not accept women officers. Let us be very clear. For the men, it is the ranks on the shoulder that matters. Whether you're a male or a female, it has no consequence whatsoever. Similar things were raised in the Central Armed Police Forces, and today we see CAPF women personnel, even as Jawans, serving on the borders, on the Bangladesh border, even in Ladakh. So that's not a thing at all. I mean, it's the rank which is respected, the uniform which is respected, not the person or the gender which is wearing it. Then let me also come to this, another misconception. It is not that the court has said that you change the ACR or the medical criteria for women. The only thing was that due to the flux of time, 10 years had passed since the Delhi High Court judgment, which was not implemented. There were certain gray areas which emerged. For example, you cannot compare a woman in her 40s with a person in the 30s. And ACR criteria also, because people did not know that they can become permanent commissioned officers. Hence, the ACRs, the annual confidential reports, were rendered in this manner by the seniors, in such a manner that they knew that these women are not going to become permanent commissioned officers. So this gray area emerged, that now once the permanent commission has come through for them, so this medical and ACR criteria was not applied to them in a manner which configured with permanent commission. So this is only a temporary problem. So the Honorable Court has tried to tide over this situation, and they've said that please compare them with the criteria which was applicable at 5 years or 10 years of service. So things will be easy in 2 to 3 years. This is only a temporary problem. It will ease out. After 2 to 3 years, everything will be at par. Men and women will be absolutely at par. So there's no problem at all. It's just a temporary situation. It's just a churning.
Lieutenant General Kardian, just coming back to you, because a lot has been said about the comments that you had made. So your quick right to reply.
Sanket, 2 brief points. Firstly, the impression seems to be gathered that every girl is being denied permanent commission by the services. I don't think that is true. Those who are considered capable, as Chitrangada also said, they are getting permanent commission. But there is a criteria that has to be applied. It has been applied to the male members. Everybody doesn't get permanent. So will it apply to girls. Secondly, what I said about the civil society, I said with a full sense of responsibility. I have been born and brought up in an area which is the cradle of recruitment for the army, where people still live in pardas, where there are still honor killings. Hopefully things are changing, and they have changed, but it's a long way to go. So I stand by what I said, that a man has seen his mother, his sister being treated in the manner. For him to change their mindset and start obeying the orders of the commanding officer is not going to be easy. We can force it, army will implement whatever we want, but army has no second place. Army is there to win wars, and there are no runners-up.
Sure. Okay. Professor Geeta Bhatt, your comment, and then I'll go to Chitrangada.
Well, Sanketji, we have seen Captain Tanya Shergill leading the all-men contingent in the Republic Day parade, and, felt very proud of it.
Yes.
So, Major Navdeep has very, clearly stated that this is something with these 615 women officers, out of which many have already got permanent commission, but those who were left out, they are the ones who have gone to the court, and they have put forth certain points which in their own right they are, they have a point which definitely needs to be taken into care, that you cannot take the ACR report of as and when they were in service, and their medical report you are taking off, of their present condition, where large number of years have already passed by. So this discrepancy definitely had to be addressed, but this is related to this particular set of women officers. Those who are at present who have been commissioned will have the same type of opportunity which their male counterparts will get, the same kind of guidelines which have been set for their male counterparts. So, and of course, we also have to take into consideration that, nature has inherently made a man and a woman different. And I personally feel that women are definitely superior because they have the power to procreate. But at the same time, one also has to understand that not in just defense forces, but in almost, in many professions, women are trying to, break the glass ceiling. And it is something which they will do based on their talent. And when we talk about equality, then in the coming years, maybe there will be a time when we don't have to reserve seats for women in the metro or in the buses.
Yeah.
Or, per se, when a woman, when, let us say there is a custody battle.
Or at least wish for that to happen in Parliament,
has that inherent
which has still not happened.
in Parliament. And maybe the judiciary will, lead the others by self-example.
Yeah. And this only if there is change, right? Chitrangada, so the larger point here is going beyond its immediate implications in the armed forces is the impact of this judgment across sections of society in different ways, in different organizations, different institutions, for women struggling everywhere. Do you think that this is a judgment which will have far-reaching implications?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It has demolished the roadblocks, the speed breakers, and the barriers which were there for women in general, the women empowerment and gender discrimination which has been prevailing in our society. And as the judgment clearly says, that we have to change the structure of our society by changing the patriarchal mindset and bringing in women empowerment. So it is going to have a very large impact on the society in general. Two things that I want to highlight here are that on obviously commenting on Kardial sir's reply, that the judgment itself speaks that there are many women officers who are here purely on the basis of their merit and merit alone. They judgment lays down the names of so many women officers who've received awards, laurels, chief commendations, etc. for their exemplary service performance. But what are they being assessed on? If they're not being assessed on the basis of their performance throughout, then what are they being assessed on is my question. We are not asking for any concessions or reservations. All we are saying is that we have proved our mettle. We were only taken in army in 1992 for 5 years as an experimental basis. But we have proved our mettle, and therefore our tenure was increased. And still after 15 years of fighting this, now we have received permanent commission, though we received it 1 year back. But again, we had to challenge the procedural aspect to get it in true sense.
Okay, I think the sense is very clear. The change is coming, change is here, and change has to be accepted.
And I want to mention just one more thing.
Very quickly,
even
running
in
out
the
of
lower
time.
judiciary in Rajasthan.
Yeah, please carry on.
Even in the lower judiciary in Rajasthan, out of 170 women are judges. There are judges in Supreme Court. There are judges in Chief Justices of the, various high courts. So society in general is changing, and women are making their way upwards.
Absolutely.
Towards the end of patriarchy.
Can I just make one point?
Sure. Major General Dwivedi, very quickly.
Point? Yeah, I just want to assure that, the system in the army evolved, and this system has evolved, has come long way, and I think it's stabilizing. If there are small glitches, these will be sorted out. Definitely, Supreme Court judgment is very well, validated.
Sure.
And I have no doubt that the army system will take it up. And what are the anomalies are there, they'll be sorted out. and our women should be assured about it.
Okay, Lieutenant General Kadyan, Major General Dwivedi, Captain Kaur, Major Navdeep Singh, Professor Bhatt, Chitrangada, as well as Niharika Karanjewala. Thank you very much, all of you all, on what we consider right here in NDTV an extremely, extremely important issue. As Chitrangada said towards the end, we are moving towards the end of patriarchy. The Supreme Court calls it an insidious system. Is this the beginning of the end? Let's debate. Or rather, keep debating. Short break, be right back.